Hey there, it's Alison, and today I'm thinking outside the box. I'm going to show you how to create these colorful beads and this focal point bead. It's a really easy process, and I know you're going to have a lot of fun. You can create necklaces, bracelets. You can use this focal as earring. You can add these to earrings. I just made a quick little elastic bracelet, but you can create whatever you like with it. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up, and let's get started. These beads here are actually what inspired what I showed you at the beginning of this video, the beads that I made. These were actually discovered by accident, and they were uncontrolled. They were using scrap pieces from image transfers. And I have an image transfer tutorial before, just before this tutorial. My last one was on image transfers. And I decided to see what an image transfer would look like on transparent polymer clay or translucent polymer clay. And then rather than wasting the scraps, I turned them into beads, and I came up with really some very beautiful, beautiful beads. Well, then, you know, I was happy with these, but I decided I wanted to try and control them and see what I could come up with there. And that's how I came up with the beads that I showed you at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up to create those. But to let you know that you can use any image on and put it on the translucent clay and use the technique that I'm about to show you and just create a bunch of really beautiful beads. So I'm going to get set up and I'll be right back. All right, so I have my image transfer sheet, and these are the images used to create the beads. I have sent these images over to From the Heart Supplies. So if you want to create these exact beads, you can get a pre-printed sheet from them, or you can get the image and print it on your own transfer paper, which you can also get from the Heart Supplies. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to cut out one of your images. And I am missing a row here. You'll get 3 rows, but I'm missing a row here because I've already created those 6. So for this tutorial, we're just going to create one, and you know, purple is my favorite. So we're going to go ahead and cut the purple out and work with that. And I like to trim as close to the edge as possible. You don't have to do that, but that's what I do. And then, if you don't trim it over your clay, this is a sheet preconditioned on a number 4 setting on my pasta machine, number 1 being the thickest setting. So it's about a medium setting. And the first thing I'm going to do is I want to flatten. Sometimes you'll have roller marks on there, and I just want to make sure that my clay is flat. So I'm just going to take my roller and lightly roll over with just a piece of copy paper. That's all this is just a piece of copy paper. So we'll go ahead and lay our image side down onto your clay and smooth it out. And I like to wait about 5 minutes for the image to transfer. You really don't need to wait that long, but that's just what I like to do. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the excess clay away because I don't want to waste it. And then we're going to go ahead and wait the 5 minutes for this image to transfer over and complete the process. So we'll go ahead and do that and I'll be back. It's been sitting for 5 minutes and now I am going to spray water on it to saturate it, and that will start dissolving the paper. Then, because I don't have a sink in my studio, I've brought in a dish of water or a container of water, and now I'm just going to, like I did in my last video, clean up that excess paper. And you may need to take your fingers and get the excess off like that. Normally I just run it under a faucet and it takes care of it for me. But you want to make sure that you get most of that paper off of there. And as you can see, it just kind of melted away into a mush. And I'm using my finger very lightly to rub off the paper. You don't want to rub too hard because you could ruin your image. And we'll take a look at it again. And you'll be able to tell because it will feel smooth. And that feels pretty smooth. So we're good to go on that. Get this water out of the way. And now I'm just going to come in with a paper towel. And I'm just wiping up the excess water. You want to just put it on there very lightly so you don't compromise your image. And then what I like to do at this point is go ahead and let this image sit for about 5 minutes. And what that's going to do is it is going to leach into the clay a little bit more, where it will almost get to a sticky point. So right now it's very matte. It'll start turning shiny. So we're going to wait 5 minutes. All right, this has sat for 5 minutes. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull it off of our tile. And this is a piece of translucent that I have rolled out to a number 4, just like with the transfer. And it's fully conditioned. And now I'm going to take the transfer and I am going to place it down onto the translucent and go ahead and trim it up. So now we have our piece covered with a layer of translucent. The next step, and let me zoom in a little more, we are going to go ahead and cut this into squares. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut it down the middle and then go ahead and cut those. And now I'm going to stack them, and it doesn't matter what order, you're just stacking them on top of each other. And I'm going to go ahead and push down. so that we're getting out any air. Now the next step, I wanted to add a little bit of sparkle to my beads. And you can either do that with a little bit of glitter, or you can use foil sheets like I did. And I used a copper foil. Now, if you want super sparkly, you can go heavy on the foil, but I'll tell you, a little bit goes a long way, and I just wanted just a subtle bit of sparkle. So I am only going to put some of the copper leaf onto two sides, and I'm just using a little bit, and I'm just randomly putting it on there. And that's it. That's all I'm going to use. So I'll put that off to the side. And now I have a sheet of translucent rolled out to a number 7 on my pasta machine. So it's very, very thin. A number 1 is the thickest. And I am going to take that, and I want this side to be up. This is the side that has the image going up. So if you look at it, they're all stacked. This will be the top. And I'm going to go ahead and line it up on my translucent and wrap it. And I'm only wrapping the sides. So now I have a cube that is wrapped in translucent. And you want to remember your top or your bottom, doesn't matter, but you want to keep track of where those are. And now I'm going to condition this by just pushing down on it to get air bubbles out, because we are going to turn this into a cane, and I want to make sure that there are no air bubbles. So pushing down on it will, help push any out that are there. Next step, we are going to take this and we're going to start rolling. And we're going to roll it out to about 8 inches. Make sure this is all in camera shot. All right, I'm going to get my ruler out, and we have 8 inches. Now we want to cut that in half, so cut it at the 4-inch mark. I'm going to take my ends, and what I like to do is see where the foil is. So I'm not putting the foil back to back. So I'm going to turn it that way. And you don't have to do that. I just like to do it. Push them together. Roll it a little. And now I'm going to twist. And while I'm twisting, I'm pushing. So I'm going to get it nice and tight. compress it really good. Roll and compress. And what that will do is get out any air bubbles. And you just do this for however long you want to do it until you feel that there's no air trapped in there. And I think that's good. So I'm just going to give a little push on my edges. And now we are going to roll this out to 12 inches. And when you're rolling, it doesn't have to be perfectly even. You know, this doesn't all have to be totally uniform. You just want to take it to 12 inches. Get my ruler out, and we got a little ways to go. Almost there. All right, we're at 12 inches. Now, I want to cut at the 4 and cut at the 8. And then I'm going to put these together. And it doesn't matter, you know, what order you do it in. And then push them together to get out any air. Roll it a little, push together. And we are going to twist this one more time. So I'm pushing and twisting. Turn it and push and twist. So this is what it's going to look like after you twist it. Then go ahead and compress it a little more, trying to get out any air. Roll, compress, roll, compress. And you do this until you feel that all the air is out and the clay is in the areas that you twisted is adhered to the other clay. All right, so now we have, I want to make sure that my ends are even. And now what we're going to do is we are going to roll this out to where it, here you have your inches to where there are millimeters. And we're going to take it to 10 millimeters. And what I have found the easiest way to roll this out so that you want at this point your clay to be consistent all the way down. And what I like to do is just take an acrylic block and go ahead and roll with just a little bit of pressure. And we're just going to keep rolling this until we get it. Sometimes you'll lose your roundness, but that's okay. You just take it, roll it out again, and use your acrylic block. You just want it to be uniform all the way down. All right, now we are going to test and see if this is 10 millimeters. And it is, so we are done. And then what I like to do is just cut the ends off, save your ends, because you are going to use them. So now we have our cane. Now, what I like to do, this is a this is similar to a Marks It tool, and I will put the link in the description below the video where you can get this, and that's where everything will be. And I'm going to go ahead and I am going to mark these so that when I cut them, each one is going to be uniform. So I'm just placing it down on my tool and I'm lining it up, and I'm, oops, let's flip that over. I'm just going to push lightly so that it leaves a mark, and that will give me my cut lines. So now we have all of our cut lines. I'm going to put this aside for a minute so that I can show you all the different canes that I made with the other colors. This, of course, is the purple. This is the darker blue. And then here's like the lighter tealish blue. That's the green. And the pinkish red. And then we have our orangish yellow. So these are what these canes will look like, and I've already marked them. And these are what produced those beautiful beads that I showed you at the beginning of this video. So I'll put those off to the side. And now what you're going to want to do is take your first cut and get rid of it. But don't actually get rid of it, just put it off to the side. And now I'm going to cut my beads. And for the sake of the video, I'm just going to cut a few of them. And once you see the process, you'll know what to do with all the others. So now I have these slices, and they will all be uniform when I roll them out. Now I'm going to zoom in a little more. So that you can see exactly what I'm doing. To make for the holes for the beads, you decide how big or how small you want your hole. And these are just bead piercers, and I have a pack of them. I believe these are from Faux, and they come with smaller ones and then this size. So I'll put a link to that in the description as well. So basically all I do is pick up my piece, and you can look at both sides. And then I'm just going to kind of smoosh down around the edges. Then I'm going to take it in my hand and I'm going to roll it into a ball. And you want to roll this until there are no lines in your clay. Then I take my finger and roll it in my hand, holding my palm up and straight because I want to get it as round as I can. And I'll do one more. I'm just taking the edges, pushing in a little bit to compress it. Put it in my hand, roll it into a ball. You're going to roll until there's no lines of clay showing where it could crack. Then take it and finish rolling so that it's more rounded. And you'll do that with a bunch of them. What I like to do is roll them out first and then go ahead and pierce them. So to pierce them, the first thing that you want to do is you could either leave them round like this and pierce them, or you could do the shape that I showed you for my beads. And what I do there is just take my acrylic block and I'm just going to lightly push down, pull it up, and then find center. Go ahead and pierce from one side, flip it over, and pierce from the other. Now what I do here is lightly hold the bead and I'm going to twist the piercing tool as I'm pushing it through to not distort the bead. Now you can leave your bead exactly like this for more of a donut shape, or you can take it and make the edges a little more square, and that's what I'm going to do. So to do that, you're just going to put it down. Now you want a clean surface to do this. This is a silicone mat that I use, and I'm just placing it lightly onto the mat, and I'm going to start rolling it back and forth, and I'm putting barely any pressure on it. You don't want to push hard. You're just basically evening out and squaring up your sides. So now the bead is more squared. Then you just simply take that off, and it will actually make your hole a little bit bigger too. So you take it off and you just put it on your tile, like so. And you make a bunch of those and you put them in your oven and you bake them at 275 for 1 hour. And normally what I would do is just get a big tile and just fill it with all the different colors and then go ahead and bake it. I'm going to show you how I made the focal beads, how I made this focal bead here. So I'm going to get set up for that and I'll be back. This is white Sculpey Primo, and I've rolled it out to a number 4 thickness on my pasta machine. I'm going to go ahead and place it on my tile. Now I did that round. You can basically use any shape, small cutters that you have. These are Kemper cutters, and they come in all different shapes. There's hearts, there's stars, there's flowers, triangles, squares, rectangles, but I'm going to go ahead and use the circle, and I'm going to put the plastic sheet over it because I kind of want a rounded cut. Go ahead and push down, and you're going to cut 2 of these out. Pull the plastic up, pull the excess up, and pull these off of the tile. And now, this is going to be my top, and it's more my beveled edge. I'm going to turn that upside down, and I'm going to find center and just lay a toothpick right in the middle. And lightly push. Don't push hard. Then I'm going to take the other, and this is the top side, and I'm going to lay it down right on top, line it up, and turn it over. Just give it a little bit of a push, not much, so that those sides are adhering. And then I am just going to go ahead and shape my bead and smooth my edges out. This is going to be your filler, and we are going to take the cane that we used as a veneer to put on top of this bead. So your edges don't need to be absolutely perfect because they are going to be covered. But you do want to make sure where you have the toothpick coming out that your edges are together. Then you're going to go ahead and put this on the tile with your beads and just bake it at the same temperature, 275, for 1 hour. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back. All right, it's been 30 minutes, and our beads are fresh out of the oven and hot. And I have a bin with ice water. I'm not going to put this one in there, but I'm going to put all the translucent beads, I would normally have a tile full of them, straight into the ice water. And the reason I do this is because it helps the translucent clay become a little more translucent, and also the beads become a little darker. So your color will become a little darker. And I just let them sit in there, you know, for a minute or so. You don't have to do this step. This is just what I like to do. And now I'll take them out and dry them off. And these, oops, that one flew away. There it is. These are the finished beads. That has a little water in the middle. But these are the finished purple beads. And as you can see, the translucent clay went from white to translucent. And in putting it in the water, it made it even a little more translucent. So at this point, you can either leave your beads exactly like this with a matte coat, or you can gloss them up with and make them shiny. And I'm going to show you a brand new product. It's been in the making for months, but it's a new product from the Heart Supplies that will make your life a million more times easier in order to get these glossy. Then for the other bead that we are going to cover with a veneer, that needs to cool off completely before we can do that. We're going to wait for that to cool off, and I'll be back. This bead is now fully cooled, and I'm going to show you how I created this bead here. Each time you're going to get a different design, so I won't be able to exactly duplicate this, but I will show you the process in which I used. This is why I told you to save your ends, because this is how you can create your veneers. And with the purple, I have my ends, but with the other colors, I had to go ahead and cut some up because I had already used those ends. So, you know, if you're going to make a lot of these, you can just cut off your cane to do it. And the first thing I need to do, you're going to go ahead and leave this on your toothpick for now. And I'm going to go ahead and add some, this is poly paste. You can also use liquid polymer clay. And I'm just going to put that on very thin coat onto the edges and one side of the bead. And place this over here for now, because we're going to go ahead and work on our veneer. Now what I do is just cut a little bit off my end. And this is entirely up to you. You can use all the colors, or you can stick with just one color to create your veneer. And this one, I'm going to use all the colors. So I'm just going to cut these up. That one's a little thick, so I will cut that into a third as opposed into a half. Because we are going to need two sides of this bead. So I'm just taking these all and cutting them in half. And I just need the lighter blue. All right, now I'm going to take them and lay them flat in my hand and just start smushing. And you're going to make it thin, but not super thin. So there's one red. Do the same, taking it flat in my hand and just smushing down, or flatten my fingers and smushing down. And if it breaks a little, that's fine. Just stick it back together. Put those over there because we used them. This is the purple. Smush it up. And then you're going to look as you're smushing which side you like better before you put it onto your piece. Those blues are very similar, so yeah, that's not the same. All right, now get back to your bead, and you're just going to place them wherever you want them. And you want to overlap a little on the edges. So that one I'll kind of pull up and make sure it gets on the edge. Doesn't have to be the whole edge because we're going to do the other side of the bead also. And then you just place them wherever you want them. Wherever you feel looks best. and whatever side of the veneer you feel looks best also. And you can overlap them if you feel like there's too much translucent in the middle of one. Put this one there. And I want to make sure my red gets onto my edge a bit. And then last but not least, we'll put this teal one on there. And it looks kind of like a hot mess, but that's okay. It's all going to get smoothed out. Now we're going to do the same for the other side. And get a little bit of your liquid clay or your poly paste and get it on there. And we will smush again. Now you're just going to go around the whole bead to make sure that everything is covered and none of your white filler is showing. Now I'm going to take this off of the toothpick, and to do that I'm just going to hold on with a pair of pliers and twist, and it might decide that it wants to break because these are older toothpicks. So we'll pull it out this side. And the reason I left it on the toothpick was so that I knew where the hole was. Even though we're going to be evening this bead out, I want to make sure I remember where my hole is because we are going to put it on a bead rack to finish the process. So as long as I have one end, that it just makes it easier to find the hole. I'm going to kind of round these edges out along the edge of the bead so we get our rounded shape back. It might be a little thicker there. Now I'm going to take my paper and smooth this out. And I will do that on both sides. That will smooth out your lines and get up all your fingerprints. Go around the edge of the bead. And then pick it up, inspect it. You might have to do a little more shaping, which is fine. So that it's more rounded. And You just keep doing this and smoothing it out until you have it the way you like it. And that looks pretty round to me. Now I'm going to take my bead piercer, find my hole that we used for the other beads, and put it right in there. Come out the other side, and then I like to go back in and come out the other. Then I will place this on a bead rack and bake it in the oven, just like we did with the beads, for 30 minutes at 275. And I'll be back. All right, this is our bead out of the oven. And I'm probably gonna burn my fingers, but I'm gonna throw it into the ice water like we did with the other beads. And we're gonna let it sit there for a little while. Go ahead and pull it off of the Now you'll see that the areas that are transparent on the bead are now going to be white because it's picking up that white base that we had underneath. And I let these sit a little longer in the ice water because they're a little bigger than the other beads. And go ahead and pull it out. Move this aside. Dry it off. And this is the finished bead. You can leave it as is, or you can gloss it up. And in the next step, we are going to gloss it up with a new product. So to make a really quick bracelet, you can just take some elastic cording and add your beads and then add your focal, and then you just have an elastic bracelet. And I used power cord, stretchy bead cord, to create this. And I only put the gloss coating on this bead, and all the rest are matte. But you can switch it up to shiny and they'll all be shiny like this bead. All right, for the last step, if you decide that you want to gloss your beads up, I'm going to show you how I did that. And what I first did was I altered my bead rack where I just took some polymer clay, which is raw, and put it in the center there so that I can place my toothpicks to rest against it. And you can use the Veneer brush from the Heart Supplies, or you can use a throwaway brush. The bristles on this are a lot softer, and these are soft, but not super soft, but I find that for the really little beads, this works a little better for me because it's thin. So rather than dirty up two brushes, I'm just going to go ahead and use this one. But to clean your brushes after you have used the product that I'm about to show you, you will just clean them with nail polish remover with acetone, and then wash your brush with soap and water. So that way it'll save your brush, you know, and you can not feel bad about using this brush. All right, so the first thing that you do is you want to put your bead on a toothpick. And let's see, I've just got it on there so that when I gloss it up, I can go ahead and rest it in here. All right, Now, Rhonda over at From the Heart Supplies sent me a sample, and this sample has gone a long way. This is the new Easy Brush On UV resin. And it won't come in a bottle like this. You'll get a much bigger bottle. I think she's doing 1 ounce, which is a really good size bottle, will last you a long time because you're just putting a thin coat on. This is not a doming resin. And I think she's also going to sell 2 ounce bottles, but I'm not exactly sure. But she sent me this. It was in a sample bottle, so it was clear. So I put some tape over it, and I keep it in this dark pouch when I'm not using it because I don't want it to cure. When you get it, it will come in a bottle that you won't need to do all this with because it'll be a bottle specially made for UV resin. So the thing I do is just open it up, and I'm going to put just a few drops into a little silicone bowl because, like I said, a little goes a long way. So I put about 5 drops in there. There's not much at all. And I'm going to put this back into my baggie because, like I said, it's not in the official bottle. It's just the sample bottle that she sent me. And I don't want it to get cured. And I'm going to take my piece. I'm going to dip my brush just a little bit into the resin and just brush it on. And I want to make sure I get all the sides. And when you get up to the toothpick, just be careful. You don't want to glop it on over there because then you'll have your bead sticking to your toothpick. So I just kind of go in there lightly. But you want to get both sides of the bead. And you really don't need to take a lighter to this because it doesn't really get bubbles in it. So, I mean, if you see any, you can take a lighter to it, but I have yet to have a problem. All right, that looks pretty smooth. And I'm going to move this out of the way so that the light does not cure it. And move my brush out of the way. And I've got my UV lamp off to the side here. You can't really see it, but there it is. And at first, I'm just going to turn the light on, and I'm just going to put it in there and rotate. So I'm holding it and rotating it around. And this doesn't drip unless, I mean, you'd have to put a really thick coat on to make it drip. But this just assures me of a really even coat. So I'll go ahead and turn my light off. And this is not fully cured yet, so I'm going to stick it in my bead rack. And I might have to move that down a bit so that my toothpick, and the reason I do this is top heavy. So if I stick the toothpick into the clay, it's gonna hold it in there and I don't need to worry about it. And then I can put it back in my lamp and I'll cure that for 10 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and let that finish and then I'll come back and show you how I'll do one of the beads, because I can't do it in front of the light. So I will be back. All right, I decided I'm just gonna go ahead and do one of the beads and then stick it all in at the same time for 10 minutes. So you just take one of your beads and put it onto your toothpick, and you're just gonna put a little bit of the Easy Brush On UV finish. And I like to do the edge of the bead first. The majority of the resin will get on there. And then very carefully, I'm gonna do the sides of the bead. And you want to not touch your toothpick too much, because then, you know, the UV resin will adhere to the toothpick. It'll be a little harder to get your bead off of it. But that's really it. You're just putting on a thin coat, and one coat is all that you need for a beautiful finish. Go ahead and put this off to the side. And I'm gonna stick my bead on there, pushing it down into the clay to hold it. I'm gonna put it under here for 10 minutes, and as soon as that is done, I will be back with the cured pieces. All right, these are fully cured now. So you just take them off of the toothpick, and they come right off, and you have a super shiny, beautiful, rock hard finish. And it's nice and smooth and really, really, really shiny. So you can, you know, do your beads this way, or you can leave them matte. One thing I wanted to mention about the Easy brush on UV resin is there's like zero smell to it. There's nothing offensive to it. So it's pleasant to work with, which is awesome. Most UV resins are very, very stinky, and this resin is a better resin to use if you're not doming to brush it on, because it does not leave a sticky finish like doming resin would. And it's just, I think, just a better alternative than to using just regular old doming UV resin. So I wanted to show you a few other things that I've made. Here's a cabochon that I've done, and I can incorporate that into a jewelry piece. And here's another bead. This is a rectangle bead, and I put it through there just to show that it does have a hole all the way through. And you can incorporate that, you know, vertically or horizontally into one of your pieces. And here's a bunch of beads that were made with scraps. Now remember, if you're going to use your scraps, it has to be the translucent polymer clay. This will not work with just the regular white polymer clay, but I wanted to show you how beautiful the finish is. And we'll just dump that into our pile there. And of course, the beads that we made today, and that's these here with the transfer sheet. So I just find that these are a lot of fun to make and great stress reliever, especially in the day and age that we're in right now with COVID and all the craziness in the world. So this is it. These are the beads. These here were made with scraps. And you can make cabochons, you can make pendants with the veneers. You know, the sky is the limit on what you can do with the canes that we created today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, please like it and give me a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. And until next time, happy creating and have a wonderful day. See you soon. Bye.